Welcome to AI Unraveled, your daily briefing on the real-world business impact of AI. Today, we're diving into a problem that is quietly hitting every enterprise board meeting, the AI success tax. You built a brilliant generative AI product, adoption soared, and then the cloud bill landed. The traditional promise of software, near zero marginal cost, has been shattered. AI operates like a utility with a running meter, causing a massive margin shock in customer-facing products and a budget shock in internal tools. We're calling this the AI unit economics crisis. In this special edition, we unveil a new executive role built to solve it, the AI Unit Economics Officer, or AUEO. This is the hybrid leader, part FinOps expert, part platform head, part AI economist, who is mandated to move your organization past failed traditional ROI metrics. We'll unpack their core missions, mastering the cost of inference, COI, through technical optimization techniques like quantization, and confronting the critical reality that human data labeling costs are rapidly exceeding compute costs. Finally, we introduce the return on efficiency ROE framework, which is how the AUEO turns AI from an unpredictable liability into your most potent strategic growth lever. Stay tuned, because the true cost of intelligence is what we're unraveling today. But first, a crucial message for the enterprise builders. Stop marketing to the general public, talk to enterprise AI builders. Your platform solves the hardest challenge in tech, getting secure, compliant AI into production at scale. But are you reaching the right 1%? AI Unraveled is the single destination for senior enterprise leaders, CTOs, VPs of engineering, and MLOps heads, who need production-ready solutions like yours. They tune in for deep, uncompromised technical insight. We have reserved a limited number of mid-roll ad spots for companies focused on high-stakes, governed AI infrastructure. This is not spray-and-pray advertising. It is a direct line to your most valuable buyers. Don't wait for your competition to claim the remaining airtime. Secure your high-impact package immediately. Secure your mid-roll spot here, link in show notes.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking past the sort of dazzling promise of generative AI and focusing on something maybe less glamorous, but honestly critical. The silent financial crisis that's hiding right behind all that hype.
Yeah, it seems like almost every company is going through this same two-act play with AI adoption.
Describe that play for us.
Okay, so Act 1, it's always the spectacular success story, right? The pilot program launches, users love it, adoption just skyrockets, everyone's thrilled.
And then Act 2 arrives.
Exactly, and that's when the cloud bill lands. Often it's like 3 times larger than anyone expected. Suddenly, success isn't just success anymore, it's actually undermining the original business case.
That's the core paradox we really want to unpack today. For maybe the first time ever in software, success directly multiplies your operational costs.
Precisely. And that's why we're calling this the AI unit economics crisis. Look, traditional software, near zero marginal cost. You build it once, scale it up, cost barely moves. But AI, it's totally different. It acts much more like a utility.
Like electricity or water.
Kinda, yeah. And that's the heart of the problem. The AI success tax. Every single time a user interacts, every query, every summary it generates, there's a little meter running in the background, racking up compute costs. So the more successful your tool is, the more it costs to keep it running.
Okay, so if success itself becomes a financial burden, the huge question is, well, how do businesses navigate this? How do they manage this new cost structure and figure out what true sustainable value looks like?
Well, our deep dive suggests the answer isn't just a tech fix or, tweaking the finances. It points towards something bigger, a completely new, arguably indispensable executive role.
And that's the AI Unit Economics Officer, the AUEO?
That's the one, the AUEO.
All right, so before this AUEO can even start trying to fix things, the organization itself has to grasp the scale of the financial disruption happening. This variable, utility-style cost model, it causes real shocks, doesn't it?
Well, absolutely. And what's interesting is how these shocks hit different parts of the business. First, you've got the margin shock. This one's purely customer-facing. So if you're building, say, a commercial product, B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. The cost of inference, that's the cost of using the AI, scales directly with how much people use it, if your product gets really popular.
Which is what you want.
Right. But that cost can just start eating away at your gross margins. Suddenly, profitability isn't stable. It's this constantly moving target, becomes really hard to predict.
And that pressure, that external margin pressure, it's mirrored inside the company too, right? With the budget shock.
Correct. That's the classic internal ROI shock. Let's say you build an AI tool for efficiency, maybe an AI legal assistant, to draft summaries or review documents faster.
Sounds useful.
It is. But then you find out the compute cost, the token consumption cost, that running meter again, actually ends up being more than the productivity gains you get. You spent money hoping to save time or labor costs, but the operational expense just swallowed all those savings. Sometimes you even end up worse off financially.
Wow. And apparently users are actively making this problem worse. One source called us cognitively greedy creatures.
It's kind of true, isn't it? When given the choice, we almost always default to using the biggest, best, most powerful AI model available, the reasoning models, even for really simple tasks.
Like summarizing a short email with a huge model.
Exactly. The catch is, those top-tier models can consume anywhere from 5 to 20 times more tokens, more compute power, than the smaller, more standard models that would have been perfectly fine. So every time someone casually uses the superpowered AI for a basic task, that cognitive greed translates directly into a bigger bill.
Okay, so you've got these twin shocks margin and budget plus users naturally driving up costs. It starts to make sense of that, frankly, shocking finding from an MIT study you mentioned. Despite enterprises pouring, what, $30 to $40 billion into Gen AI?
Yeah, huge amount.
0.95% of those projects are failing to show a measurable return on investment, 95%.
It's staggering. But if you connect the dots, the failure usually isn't that the AI doesn't work. It often does work, technically. The real failure. It's trying to apply old-school industrial-era financial metrics built for predictable upfront capital expenses to this new cognitive-era transformation.
Where the costs are ongoing and variable.
Exactly. And the value gains. They're often sublinear, meaning your breakthroughs might get less frequent as you scale, but the costs, they scale linearly or sometimes even faster. So yeah, the tech might work, but making it economically viable, that's suddenly the hardest part of the whole equation.
Which brings us back to needing that cognitive era leader, the AUEO. You're saying this isn't just like a finance person with a fancy new title, it's a fundamentally new kind of executive.
Yes, completely. And this is the crucial justification for creating such a role. You can't solve this AI unit economics crisis by just bringing in a traditional VP of finance.
Yeah.
They won't have the deep tech understanding. And you can't solve it just by hiring a head of engineering either, because they might not grasp the full financial implications.
So the AUEO has to bridge that gap.
Precisely. The AUEO role blends three functions that used to be pretty separate, pretty siloed, but are now absolutely essential for navigating the AI economy.
Okay, break down those three components for us.
All right. First, they need to be the FinOps leader. This is the person bringing financial discipline, right? They're meticulously estimating costs and benefits, driving price performance with cloud vendors, negotiating GPU time. They really understand the variable spend model.
Okay, finance governance, what's second?
Second, they need the deep technical knowledge of a head of AI platform. We're talking MLOps, scalable systems architecture. They need to understand how efficiency is actually engineered down to the hardware and software level. They know why one GPU setup might be way cheaper or more efficient for a specific task than another.
So tech and architecture chops. And third,
They have to be the AI economist. This is more strategic. It goes beyond just tracking costs. They're modeling complex economic trade-offs. For instance, weighing the long-term ROI of using one giant, expensive, say, 70 billion parameter model versus maybe chaining together four smaller, cheaper, specialized 8 billion parameter models to do the same job.
FinOps, AI platform lead, AI economist. That really does sound like three different V keys rolled into one. Is this role actually realistic, or are we talking about some kind of mythical unicorn executive that doesn't exist yet?
Well, it is a bit of a unicorn right now, definitely, but necessity is the mother of invention, right? The reason this specific blend is so vital is because the AUEO's main job is to resolve that inherent organizational friction.
What friction is that?
It's a classic tug of war. You've got the data science teams understandably pushing for more compute, more powerful models, needing resources for innovation. Then you've got the finance department demanding cost control, predictability, reining in spending. These groups often don't even speak the same language.
Ah, I see.
The AUEO is potentially the only executive who truly speaks all three languages. The language of tokens and FLOPS, the language of scalable architecture, and the language of the P&L statement. That unique position allows them to be the arbiter, the one who can actually balance that critical need for innovation against the demands of financial sustainability.
Okay, let's get practical. Let's dive into the first big area this AUEO needs to conquer. Taming the cost of inference, or COI. You mentioned training is a one-time capital cost, but inference is the silent budget killer. Why silent?
Because it's ongoing, it's variable, and it creeps up on you. It's the operational cost of actually using the AI model day in, day out. It's that meter that's always running every time a user hits enter or asks for a summary.
So how does the AUEO start to tame it? What drives that cost?
There are three main technical drivers they have to manage. First is tokenomics. Tokens are the basic currency, the fundamental unit of cost in the Gen AI world. Basically, the longer the input prompt you give the AI, and the longer the output answer it generates, the more tokens it consumes, and the higher the computational demand.
Simple enough. Longer conversations cost more. What's next?
Second is the raw computational power needed, the model complexity. We often measure this in FLOPS, floating point operations per second. A huge model, like a 70 billion parameter one, needs vastly more FLOPS, more raw calculation power, than a smaller 8 billion parameter model. This directly drives demand for much more expensive, powerful hardware.
Okay, bigger models need bigger, pricier chips. And the third driver, you mentioned hardware bottlenecks. This is where the waste happens.
This is where a lot of financial waste can happen, yes. See, when an AI model is running inference, its speed is typically limited by one of two things. Either memory I/O, how fast it can fetch the model's parameters from memory, or arithmetic, the sheer speed of the calculations themselves.
Right.
Now, here's the trap. If you run a model that's primarily memory-bound, meaning it spends most of its time waiting for data to arrive on super expensive hardware that's optimized for arithmetic, like a top-tier NVIDIA H100 GPU, well, that's just pouring money down the drain. You're paying a premium for a calculation speed you're not even fully using.
So the AUEO's job is to match the model-specific bottleneck.
Exactly. Match the bottleneck to the most cost-effective hardware SKU available for that specific bottleneck. Don't pay for arithmetic speed if your problem is memory speed, and vice versa.
Makes sense. So how do they measure this COI effectively? It can't just be a simple cost per query number, can it?
No, that's often too simplistic. They need a more sophisticated toolkit. For companies running their own models, self-hosting, the really granular, true economic measure is GPU seconds per token.
GPU seconds per token. Okay.
This metric directly ties the hardware cost, how long you're using that expensive GPU, to the actual unit of output, the token. For tracking profitability in, say, a B2C product, they might use cost per conversation. This aligns the AI cost better with the unit of user value, but you have to be careful because it's highly variable. Some users are chatty, some aren't.
Got it. And this measurement challenge leads straight into probably the biggest strategic decision the AUEO faces repeatedly. Should we self-host an open source model or just pay for access via an API from a big provider?
Yeah, and the analysis here is crucial because there's a real arbitrage opportunity, but it's tricky. Benchmarks are showing that for smaller models, let's say under 14 billion parameters, self-hosting can be incredibly cheap, sometimes as little as like 4% of the cost of using a big proprietary model like GPT-4 via API.
Wow, only 4%. But you said it inverts.
It can invert dramatically, yeah.
Yeah.
The sources warned about this. If you try to self-host the really large models, those over 70 billion parameters, it can actually become more expensive than using the API. One study found it could be over 2 times more expensive.
Why is that?
Because running those massive models efficiently requires incredibly complex, expensive infrastructure, specialized expertise. It's a huge operational burden that often outweighs the API cost savings.
So what's the AUEO's play then? It's not always cheaper to self-host.
The smartest strategy seems to be the hybrid approach, implementing a model router. Think of it like an intelligent traffic cop for AI requests.
Okay.
This system automatically sends the simple, high-volume queries to cheap, maybe self-hosted smaller models. It only routes the really complex tasks, the ones that genuinely need that premium power and accuracy, to the expensive proprietary API calls. You get the best of both worlds, optimizing costs based on the task's actual needs.
Clever. And to squeeze costs even further, there are specific technical tricks the AUEO can push for, right? You mentioned 3 key ones.
Yeah, 3 main levers to kind of bend the cost curve. First is quantization. For the non-engineers listening, this basically means reducing the numerical precision of the model's weights. You make the model lighter and faster, often with very little impact on performance.
Okay, slim it down.
Second is pruning. This is more algorithmic. You essentially identify and remove redundant or unnecessary connections weights within the neural network. Think of it like stripping out clutter from an engine to make it run more efficiently.
Got it. And the last one?
Dynamic batching. This is about maximizing how much work the GPU is doing at any given time. Instead of processing user requests one by one, you group them together into batches to keep that expensive hardware busy as much as possible. Less idle time means lower cost per query.
All right, that covers the compute side, the whole GPU efficiency puzzle. But you hinted earlier that if AI is like a house built on compute, The foundation is data. And the sources are saying that foundation holds some massive, often hidden costs.
Yeah, this is the really critical shift in understanding that's emerging. We need to talk about the hidden half of the AI cost equation, the data pipeline.
The engine that feeds the AI.
Exactly. Collecting data, cleaning it, preparing it, transforming it into something that AI can actually use. This can easily account for 15 to 35% of the total project cost before you even get to training or inference. Especially for systems using retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, the quality and efficiency of that data pipeline is paramount.
And if you're building one of those RAG systems, the AUEO needs to do a serious total cost of ownership analysis, a TCO, specifically for things like vector databases, right?
Absolutely critical. And that vector database TCO is like an iceberg. There are the obvious costs you see above the water: hardware, storage, straightforward enough.
Okay.
Then there are the costs that are, let's say, challenging to quantify accurately. Things like capacity planning, how much do we really need,
Right.
the complex setup process, ongoing maintenance, patching.
Tricky, but maybe manageable.
But the real danger, the stuff below the waterline that can sink you, are the costs that are almost impossible to quantify upfront. What's the true cost of pulling your senior engineers off product development to babysit this database system? That hits engineering morale hard. What's the cost of project delays, the time to market loss because integrating this thing was harder than expected? These soft costs can be enormous.
This all seems to be building towards something. You called it a staggering economic inversion. It sounds like it fundamentally changes the AUEO's priorities.
It absolutely does. Because the dominant assumption out there, in the market, in boardrooms, is still that the major cost driver for AI is compute. It's all about the GPUs.
That seems intuitive, right?
It seems intuitive, but the latest data shows it's demonstrably false. And this, I think, is the single most important insight from our deep dive today.
Lay it on us.
Okay, look at the numbers for 2024. Estimates show that total data labeling costs, the cost of humans annotating and structuring data to train and fine-tune AI, were 3.1 times higher than the total marginal compute cost for training AI models globally.
Wait, 3 times higher. The human labeling cost more than the chips.
3 times higher. And look at the growth rates. Between 2023 and 2024, data labeling costs grew an estimated 88 times. Compute costs, they grew too, but only by about 1.3 times in the same period. The human cost is exploding relative to the hardware cost.
That is. Wow. So while everyone's hyper-focused on optimizing GPU seconds, the real budget hemorrhage is coming from the human effort needed to create the data.
It's a profound shift in perspective. There's a case study on the training of a model called Minimax M1 using reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF. The compute cost for the train, about $500,000. Significant, sure, but the estimated cost of procuring, cleaning, and labeling the human feedback dataset needed for that training, $14 million.
$14 million for the data, $500,000 for the compute. That's a 28-to-1 ratio.
28 to 1. Data cost dwarfing compute cost.
Okay, this completely reframes the AUEO's job then.
Completely. Their primary mandate shifts pretty drastically. It's less about just managing cloud bills and GPU utilization, though that's still important, and more about rigorously managing the economic efficiency of human feedback.
Human feedback as the bottleneck.
Exactly. They have to start treating the time of those human annotators, the subject matter experts providing the feedback, as the most scarce, most expensive resource in the entire AI value chain. The focus has to be on tools, processes, and pipelines that maximize the throughput and value of that human effort.
So the AUEO has wrestled with inference costs, uncovered the massive hidden data costs. Their final job is really to bring order to all this chaos and actually calculate a true AI ROI, right? How do they start?
They typically start by implementing a structured approach, often borrowing from the FinOps world, using the crawl, walk, run maturity model to professionalize how AI costs are managed.
Okay, crawl, walk, run. What's to roll?
Crawl is all about getting basic visibility. It means tagging everything. If it's infrastructure using a GPU, it absolutely must be tagged and tracked, no exceptions. And crucially, you need to cleanly separate the costs of R&D and experimentation from the costs of running AI in production. Get the basic accounting right.
Makes sense. Get visibility first, then walk.
Walk introduces accountability. This is where you start assigning clear budgets to teams using AI resources. But importantly, these should be budgets, maybe with some flexibility, not rigid technical roadblocks that just stifle innovation. The goal here is to foster a culture of cost-aware experimentation, where engineers are actually thinking about the cost implications of their choices and are maybe even incentivized to find more efficient solutions.
Okay, visibility, then accountability, and cost awareness. What's the final stage? RUN.
Run is about true value alignment. This is the end goal. Here that AUEO is tracking really granular unit economics, maybe cost per customer served or cost per feature used. They're directly linking infrastructure costs right down to that GPU second we talked about to specific revenue streams or concrete business outcomes.
And this is where traditional ROI breaks down.
This is exactly where it breaks down, leading to that 95% failure rate. To succeed in the run stage, the AUEO needs to champion a different metric, the return on efficiency, or ROE.
Return on efficiency. Okay, how does that work?
ROE is a framework designed specifically to quantify those soft or previously intangible benefits of AI, things like time savings, productivity boosts, faster cycle times, and translate them into hard dollar values that finance can understand and track.
So instead of just saying, oh, our new AI tool saved the legal team time.
Exactly. The AUEO demands quantification. They'll push the teams to measure, we accelerated contract review by 60%, or we improved the efficiency of creating your request for proposals, RFPs, by 30 to 50%. Get the specific percentage or time saving.
And then turn that time into money.
Precisely. The AUEO applies a consistent formula, something like time saved in hours, fully loaded employee cost per hour. This gives you the true AI ROI because it directly connects the costs of the AI initiative to measurable operational improvements and strategic goals. It's the only way, really, to demonstrate sustainable value and escape that trap of successful pilots that turn into financial drains.
You know, this AUEO way of thinking, connecting cost directly to value and efficiency.
Yeah.
It's not just theoretical, is it? We're already seeing examples of this out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about companies like Netflix or Spotify with their recommendation engines. They are constantly performing this balancing act, tuning the quality and complexity of their algorithms versus the infrastructure costs required to serve those recommendations to millions of users. That's systemic efficiency, AUEO-style thinking baked in.
And you also mentioned resource efficiency.
Right. Look at companies like Uber or Anthropic. They're known to heavily use discounted spot instances from cloud providers for things like model training. These instances are much cheaper, but can be interrupted with little notice.
Risky.
It is risky, unless you have the technical sophistication to manage it. They pair the use of spot instances with techniques like checkpointing, frequently saving the state of their training job, so if an instance gets pulled, they don't lose much work. That's using technical solutions to unlock resource efficiency, again, very much in the AUEO mindset.
So wrapping this all up, the AUEO isn't just about cutting costs then. It sounds much more strategic.
Definitely not just a cost controller. They are, or should be, a growth engine. Their role is to shift the entire organization's focus from just tracking granular input costs like cost per token towards measuring profitable outcomes like cost per result or value per token.
And what makes them uniquely positioned to do that? Why is this hybrid role so indispensable, ultimately?
It comes down to visibility and scope. The AUEO is potentially the only executive who has a clear line of sight across the entire AI value chain. They understand the nitty-gritty technical cost of a GPU second, and they understand the increasingly dominant human cost of a data label, and they understand how those inputs translate all the way up to the high-level business outcome measured by ROE.
That complete view is powerful.
It makes them the chief value arbitrager in the organization. They're the only one who can confidently make strategic trade-offs. They might authorize a significant cost increase in one area, say, doubling the budget for specialized human data labelers, because they have the data and the model to know that investment will drive an even greater improvement in overall product efficiency or user satisfaction or gross margin further down the line.
That ability to connect the dots from the lowest level infrastructure cost through the features right into the customer outcome and the bottom line, that really does feel like the future of leadership in the AI era.
I believe it is.
Okay, so the AUEO's core job is applying this return on efficiency metric everywhere. We want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to maybe chew on. Think about your own professional life. What's one task, one process, where right now you or your team mostly just measure the effort put in or the time spent, where you don't really quantify the hard dollar efficiency gained or lost?
Find that task.
Find that task. That's your starting point for applying ROE thinking. Try to quantify the potential operational improvement, estimate the hours saved, and then apply a realistic fully loaded cost to those hours. See what true value you might be creating or could be
A
creating.
little bit of AUEO thinking for everyone.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
That wraps our special report on the rise of the AI Unit Economics Officer. The key takeaway here is simple. Success in AI is now a deeply operational and financial challenge. If you're running a major AI initiative right now, you can't afford to ignore the cost of inference or the accelerating expense of human data pipelines. The AUEO's mandate is implementing the Return on Efficiency (ROE) framework, which is the only way to prove hard dollar savings from softer benefits like productivity gains. We've covered a lot of ground, from quantization techniques to the AUEO's specific governance structure. I'm genuinely curious about this. Who in your organization is currently tackling this combined FinOps, platform, and economics challenge? Is the AUEO already forming on your org chart? Let us know on LinkedIn or shoot us a note at the link in the show notes. If you found this special report valuable, please hit subscribe and share it with your CTO or CFO. You've been listening to AI Unraveled. Until next time, keep unraveled those complex AI challenges. Finally,